today we are going to be reading The Legend of the Screaming Goat, a Caves and Cliffs story. This is by Minecraft. You can read it yourself by the link in the description below. That will be there for you to read. So let's get started. Lee came from a family of storytellers. They took any chance they could get, gathered around a dinner table, huddling around a roaring fire, or just passing the time a lot during a long trip. All the stories had some fun truth to them, but after being passed down from generation to generation, it was only natural for some details to be lost and others embellished, but one story never changed. Several centuries ago, one of Lee's ancestors had been trekking across a mountain range. Lost and hungry, the ancestor was ready to give up as the sun started to set. All of a sudden, a sound rang out across the snowy peaks. A piercing scream was like the sound for the ancestor, who used the last of their energy to climb to the top. Even if it was the last thing they saw, they needed to find the source. It was a goat. The majestic beast lifted its head to the skies and let off another guttural scream. The ancestor was entranced. They didn't notice the goat taking charge until it was too late. The goat rammed its mighty head into the ancestor, causing them to fly off a mountain. The ancestor fell. They too let out a scream, but that scream wasn't their own. It sounded like the goat's. The legend stated that the ancestor awoke at sunrise in a flower biome, a full health bar, inventory filled with leather armor. Lee didn't know how much of that part was true. For centuries, their family had taught their children that screaming goats brought good fortune. This was the origin of the family, who would go forth and to craft the finest leather armor in the entire overworld. Decades passed without a screaming goat sighting, which some people believe to be the reason of the family business had started to wane. Lee was finally old enough to set out on his own adventure, and he had only one goal in mind: find a screaming goat to bring the business back on track. On the day of their solo adventure, Lee woke up early, a bit nervous in a particularly bad way. They made sure their inventory was full of anything that a long, endurous trip would require. Plenty of food, extra tools, a new compass, a spyglass, a map that led back home, and Leah's trusted bucket. You never know when you need a bucket, especially when exploring perilous heights. It just says heights. Lee walked for what felt like hours, but then finally a mountain top came into view. Looking up, Lee could hear different sounds coming from the towering cliff, but none that resembled a scream. However, a familiar hissing sound was growing louder and louder, which urged Lee to start climbing. Soon enough, the snow started to fall, and Lee could feel the air in his cold bones. Before sunset, Lee dug a shelter into the side of the mountain to keep hostiles out. They made sure to add a window for peeking and natural light, an automatic iron door for fast, easy access, and extra flare. Lee continued to explore the mountain range for a few days. Next to the shelter, they came up. Hello? Oh, okay. Lee continued to explore the mountain range for a few days. Next to the shelter, they set up camp, putting on a crafting table, a few cauldrons, and a composter. They even built a little perch where they could watch over the mountain in peace. Their first goal that Lee spotted took their breath away. Like a cloud with legs that moved much faster than expected, which was dully noted by Lee. Through their spyglass, Lee watched as the goats playfully roamed in the ridge, jumping up and down, climbing impossibly steep angles, and ramming other mobs with glee. Lee noted that everyone was a target except for shulkers and other goats. They were really fascinating creatures to study, and as time passed, Lee started observing all the mobs that roamed the mountain. Cows, lumbered, zombies stalked, baby zombies stalked adorably. Lee recorded it all. When Lee's food inventory started running low, they ventured out and managed to milk a goat. Even though Lee was happy the milk filled their bucket, they couldn't help but feel a little disappointed when the goat didn't so much as bleat. But the milk helped craft an exceptional cake. So there was no reason to complain. After a few more days, Lee's inventory was almost depleted, and it was getting very difficult to ignore the homesickness that was settling in. It was time to return home. Lee wasn't empty-handed. There were plenty of stories to tell. Okay guys, so I'm going to end this video here, and you can in the next video I'll read the rest of this story.